Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all in the audience and those who are watching us via live stream to the first campus event to take place in our newly renovated Dwayne L. Jones Recital Hall here at beautiful SUNY Old Westbury. I extend a special welcome to our panelists from across the region. I extend a special welcome to our panelists, whom you will hear from very shortly, and to our guests and leaders from across the region and state, representing business, nonprofit, education, and elected leadership. Thank you all for being part of this very important conversation. As we begin, I would like to acknowledge where we stand, that we have the privilege of gathering here today in the ancestral lands of the Merrick and Matinakak, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We honor their contributions, strength, and resilience in protecting this land and aspire to uphold our social and environmental justice mission according to their examples. Additionally, given the conflict, strife, and tragic loss of lives that are taking place around the world and in our nation today, and unfortunately, seemingly every single day, I ask all to share in a moment of silence. As many of you know, I accepted my post as president of OW without the benefit of a campus visit because of the COVID pandemic. So you can see, I am a man with faith. When I first arrived on January 11, 2021, I did so believing that this would be a campus that sought full alignment between its mission and its work. OW's mission is unflinching in its commitment to true inclusive excellence, one that heeds Ngugi wa Thiong'o's call to move beyond diversity by moving the center. For me, I wanted to see how we realized our mission to place all of our diverse community members at the center of our discourse, our experience, and our operations. In other words, how does real inclusion of SUNY's most predominantly diverse university look, feel, and most importantly, how does it effectively redefine higher education's traditional notion of excellence? Today's conversation is about the wonderful discoveries that I made here at SUNY Old Westbury in my search for inclusive excellence. On our panel, we have students and an alumnus who is an elementary school principal who will help us to explore how OW achieves inclusive excellence through ensuring mattering, representation, and equity in all aspects of our university. To further discuss how inclusive excellence can become an even more compelling recruitment strategy in the face of recent attacks on affirmative action in higher education, we are fortunate to have our SUNY Chancellor, Dr. John L. King, our Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs and General Counsel, Mr. Kapil Longani, and the Honorable Kimberly Jean-Pierre, a member of Long Island's delegation to the New York State Assembly. You can read more about all of our panelists by using the QR code available on the program card for today's event. Thank you all for being here. Before we jump into our panel discussion, I want to give you all the opportunity to hear directly from our students and alum by asking them to introduce themselves. What you'll hear will illustrate what our legacy is, how important our strengths are to them, and how Old Westbury has impacted them. We'll go in this order first. Javier, then AJ, then Elijah, and last, Dr. Alex Rivera. Please.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here with all you today. My name is Javier Enriquez. I'm from El Salvador, and I'm a freshman here at Old Westbury. I'm majoring in finance. I graduated from Granite North High School, and I'm actually one of the first persons to go to college in my family, and I'm just happy to be here today with all. I think the school is doing a really great job with the students, and yeah.
Hi everyone, my name's AJ Muralidar. I'm a senior here at Old West, and I'm a bio major. I'm a transfer student from California, so I came here when I was 10 years old from India, and I've lived in California for about 12 years, and I came here in 2021. And Old West was one of the colleges that stood out to me because, because of the beautiful nature that it's surrounding. So I'm happy to be here with you all, and I hope you have a very nice time with us.
Hi, my name.
It's on. It's on.
Hi, my name is Elijah. Sorry about that. I'm a marketing major. I'm from Queens, New York, and I got here to Old West because I made a intentional choice to want to be around students that look like myself and be in a school where I feel represented, and I feel that here. And it's been a great journey. I'm a senior now. I'm soon to graduate in May, and I'm excited. And it's been a great journey. I learned a lot, met a lot of people, learned a lot from a lot of different cultures, and it really was a great experience, and it's still a great experience. And I'm excited to see how we can improve, and excited to start this discussion.
Afternoon, everyone. Alejandro Rivera. Most of you know me as Alex. Those of you that are here as my friends. Class of 2005, what brought me here was really the opportunity to seek out a well-rounded education. I always knew that teaching was at the heart of what I wanted to do, and so I did my homework, right? Just like anybody else, you do your homework, you see where you want to go and where you want to be. Visiting the campus, immediately just enamored with everything that was here. But the faculty is what won me over. The ability to have conversations not just around what's in a textbook or in a book, but be able to talk about real-life experiences, perspectives was what I was really seeking for. And I got that here. And so from there, it led me to the world of education, and I sit in front of you now today as the principal of the George A. Jackson Elementary School, right next door in the Jericho School District. And proud moment, too. I mentioned to some of my colleagues that this was going on, and 3 of them are sitting right there in the audience. So I have 2 student teachers, Jessica and Ephraim, and I have a rock star teacher in the middle, Lauren. So thank you to my colleagues for being here as well today.
Now let's get to the discussion. We're going to begin with you, Mr. Longani. It's been reported that the deconstruction of affirmative action in college admissions is a decision that affects mainly the very selective campuses across the nation. Why and how does this decision impact SUNY and its campuses?
Yeah, thank you. Hello? Normally, I don't need a microphone to be heard. I'm a very, very loud person, but I'll use the microphone for now. Thank you, President Sams, for the invitation and the honor to be on this extraordinary panel. It's really a pleasure to join all of you. It's truly inspiring. Chancellor King and I and President Sams just had lunch with several students here, and it was just an exceptional experience to hear all about your life experiences, or at least some of your life experiences, and what brought you here to Old Westbury. And to that end, I want to talk briefly about the Supreme Court decision and its implications for all of us across the country. First and foremost, I want to emphasize that SUNY's commitment, the Board of Trustees' commitment, and Chancellor King's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion remain unchanged based on this decision. They are as strongly committed to DEI issues as they were before the decision. So I want to be crystal clear about that, because there's been a lot of things said in the media. Reporters, very educated reporters, who have been writing about this decision, who haven't taken more than 2 seconds to actually read the decision. So let me start there with what the decision actually said. The decision basically said, at this stage, they are eliminating race-conscious admissions. What it did not say is that race is irrelevant. I want to be crystal clear about that. Race remains relevant, and nothing in the decision said otherwise. But don't believe me. Let me read you a small portion from the majority opinion. And I quote, "Nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise, tied, for example, to the student's courage and determination or unique ability to contribute to the university." And I want to stop there to let that sink in for a moment. Contrary to what everybody, or what several media members have been saying, the court did not say that race is not valuable, or that one's life experiences, challenges, adversity that one overcomes as a result of, or in part because of your race, are irrelevant. They are as relevant today as they were before the decision. You should be just as proud of your experiences as you were before the decision as you are now. Okay? I'm a lawyer. This is what they pay me to do, is interpret decisions. So what I'm telling you is true. You can take it to the bank. So what is the impact on SUNY right now? Well, as I said, nothing in this court's decision is going to affect our commitment to DEI issues. It is one of the Chancellor's 4 pillars. He is as strongly committed to reaching those robust goals as he was the day he set foot here as the Chancellor back in January. But it's not just the Chancellor who is so committed. Our own board issued a statement on September 12th. It's a long statement, and you should read it. But I want to give you what I think is the most important part. And they said, quote, "It is resolved that the State University of New York reaffirms our commitment to provide opportunity and excellence for students of all backgrounds, and that our pursuit of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the law will always be integral to ensuring that SUNY is the best statewide public system of higher education in the country." Again, I want you to think about what they are saying. We can only be the best statewide public system of higher education in the country when we have DEI, when we have a commitment, an unrivaled commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And nothing in this court's decision says otherwise. So moving forward, what are we going to be looking for when we are admitting students to campuses like Old Westbury? Well, we're going to continue to focus on students' character, their credentials, their experiences, their contributions to society, and how those contributions and experiences tie in to our campus's missions, right? It's really important that our campuses and our administrators, like President Sams, continue to talk about how critical DEI is to our mission. You all know this at Old Westbury. It's really important that our 63 other campuses do the same thing. But it's also important that we recognize, as we consider how applicants As we ask our applicants to talk about how race has affected their life, it's important that we don't put the entire burden upon our students. And so to that end, while some students will want to talk about how race has affected their life, some other students will not want to relive some of these traumatic memories. And that's okay. Because nothing in the Supreme Court's decision prevents us from talking about and thinking about other criteria that are race neutral. Things like, what's your work experience? Your job experience? Where do you live? Are you a first-gen student? What type of challenges have you overcome? What type of adversity have you faced? What's your culture like? How many languages do you speak? Are you a veteran? All of those characteristics are race neutral and are so important to diversity. And nothing in the Supreme Court's decision prevents us from considering those criteria. Now, the court's decision was limited to admissions. So there are several areas that the court did not touch on, like financial aid, scholarships, outreach, pipeline programs, things like that. I can assure you, as the sun rises in the east, that the court will address it in due time. And we're thinking about it behind the scenes. The chancellor talks about these issues all the time. I will just assure you, no different than admissions, our commitment to DEI on all of these issues remains unabated. But stay tuned for what the court is going to say, because certainly this is not the last word on this issue. And remember, for those of you that are feeling a little down about the decision, I want you to remember, this isn't the first negative decision that we have dealt with, right, with respect to race and admissions, right? There's a whole line of cases. But guess what? Every time we have faced adversity, we've had extraordinary leaders like President Sams, like Chancellor King, who figure out creative ways to ensure that our commitment to DEI issues remains unabated. And that is exactly what we are going to continue to do in spite of this decision.
Absolutely.
Thank you, President.
Thank you. Thank you, Kapil. And I didn't thank our other panelists earlier. Thank you for the introduction. Now, Chancellor King, it's your turn. Let's focus on the idea of opportunities. How can the end of affirmative action and admissions serve as an opportunity for higher education as a whole, and for SUNY in particular? Are there ways higher education systems and institutions can modify how we admit students and how we function in a way that guarantees that all Americans have a seat in the academy?
Yeah, thank you for framing the question that way. Really thrilled to be here, and before I respond to the question, I want to ask that we give a round of applause to President Sams, who's doing an extraordinary job. The greatest danger of the Supreme Court's decision is that young people in America, young people who are Black, who are Latino, who are Indigenous, might hear in the Supreme Court's decision a message that they're not welcome in higher education. That, to me, is the greatest danger. And so we have to do everything possible as a higher education sector and at SUNY to combat that, to make sure that every student understands that there is a place for everyone at SUNY. And so that's how we're thinking about it. Kapil did an excellent job describing how in the admissions process, we can leverage race-neutral criteria, whether a student is low income, whether they're first gen, the adversity they may have overcome in their high school or their neighborhood, whether they're a veteran, whether they did the AmeriCorps program. We can leverage those race-neutral criteria to keep advancing our goal of diversity. We can also use the language of the court decision to look closely at students' description of their own experience, their journey. As we do that, we've got to make sure that we're reaching out to every student in the state. So one of the things that we're doing at SUNY is sending letters home to all of our high school students, letting them know there's a place for them at SUNY. We just finished up a period of 2 free application weeks to make sure that students who might be worried about the cost of applications would have the opportunity to apply to SUNY. Even after those weeks are ended, if a student is a low-income student or they go to a high-needs high school or they're a veteran, they can still, throughout the admission cycle, do their applications for free. We have a team of recruiters who are going out to high schools, and we're focused on the high schools where students might not hear about the opportunities at SUNY. We have high schools, unfortunately, who have so many students for every counselor that counselors don't have the opportunity to help each student individually understand what the options are for them after they graduate. So we're trying to make an effort to make that available. Helping students understand the financial aid process. In December, there'll be a new free application for federal student aid. We need students to complete that application. Last year in New York, students left $200 million on the table in unclaimed federal financial aid because of not completing the FAFSA. So we are working hard to make sure students across the state complete the FAFSA. We're launching something we're calling the FAFSA Completion Corps, SUNY students who will be trained to help their peers complete that free application for federal student aid so they know the Pell dollars, the TAP dollars, the campus scholarship dollars that are available to them to go to school. 53% of students at SUNY go tuition free. We've got to make sure that students know those opportunities are there for them. We've got to build stronger pipelines. We have here on this campus many students who are coming from community colleges. We've got to get better at making sure that community college students have the support and advising and guidance to make it to our four-year institutions. And we've got to make sure that our students at our four-year institutions have the opportunity to go on to our graduate programs within SUNY. I want our 4 medical schools at SUNY to know that there's a super talented, capable community of undergraduates here at Old Westbury that they should tap. When students are thinking about law school, I want them to think about our law school at the University at Buffalo. Right? And University at Buffalo should be here recruiting Old Westbury students for our law school. So we've got to work hard to make sure that we fulfill that commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and that we recognize the danger of what the Supreme Court did. You know, when I think about this affirmative action decision from the Supreme Court, I think about the Dred Scott decision in 1857, where the Supreme Court said, the Chief Justice then said, that black people were never intended to be included in the United States Constitution, that their rights were never intended to be protected by the United States Constitution. We fought a civil war to correct that. We added the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments to the Constitution to correct that, to make clear that America is for all of us. And so we've got to make sure at SUNY that we are living that value, and that's how we're approaching implementing admissions changes, financial aid changes that will help us ensure diversity on our campuses. We're also leveraging the EOP program. Do we have any EOP students or alumni in the room? For decades, the EOP program has been an engine of opportunity for New York State. Now, the EOP program, the Educational Opportunity Program, is income-based, not race-based, but 77% of the students who participate in EOP today are Black or Latino. And the EOP program provides a mix of wraparound supports that not only help students to graduate, but on many of our campuses, the EOP students graduate at a rate higher than the rest of the students on the campus because of those supports, because of the strength of the community. So as Kapil said, we are 100% committed to the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the Supreme Court is not going to stand in the way of that.
I'm going to ask you to keep your mic because I want to follow up. Is there a possibility, Chancellor, that ending affirmative action in admissions could actually increase access for underrepresented populations who are seeking institutions who are authentically committed to academic excellence, inclusion, affordability, and leading them to career and life successes. In other words, might the demise of affirmative action in admissions lead institutions to be more sincere in their DEI work as a means of their own survival?
That's up to us, right? How will we respond? It's worth saying that even when we had the tool of race-conscious admissions, selective higher ed institutions in this country weren't using the tool effectively. If you look at the most selective private colleges in the United States today, even though African American students are about 15% of the student population, they represent 7% or less of the students at those private selective colleges. For selective public colleges, the numbers are very similar. About 15% of the potential students are African American, only 7% of the enrolled students. For Latino students, about 21% of the graduating class, about 12% of the population at selective public colleges. So the truth is, even when the tool of race-conscious admissions was available, higher ed institutions weren't serious enough about the work to achieve diversity to have a representative student population. You know what's the opposite of that? Old Westbury. Old Westbury is a place where there's a serious commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that will be the challenge now. Will people step up in this moment and put their resources into the kind of recruitment, outreach, financial aid that will allow them to have a diverse student population? Will they lower barriers that get in the way for students, making it easier for students to transfer from community colleges to four-year institutions without losing credits, without having to pay more money to take classes over again that they already took in community college? Will we lower barriers like addressing food insecurity, housing insecurity, transportation obstacles, if we're serious, right? And then, are we serious about, once the students come, making sure they finish? Because the other troubling reality in the higher ed sector is that too many of our campuses, the students are more diverse at the start of freshman year than they are walking across the stage at the end of senior year. And that's on us. That's a question of, did we provide the right supports to students throughout? I was struck when Kapil and I were talking, along with President Sams with a group of Old Westbury students, I was struck by what they described about their experience here, about the first year experience courses, the civic engagement and the community learning experiences that students had that helped Old Westbury feel like a place they wanted to be, help them be prepared to interact with folks who are different from them, help them make connections with peers. I was struck by how students talked about the ways in which faculty and staff helped them feel supported and seen. Students with disabilities knowing that there's some place to go to get the help they need. Students who are struggling academically knowing there's a tutoring center and a writing center where they can go. Students feeling like difference is not something that people are afraid of, but something that is embraced in this community. We have to do those things too, otherwise we won't keep the students of color who come to us. So fundamentally, the answer to your question depends on our courage and commitment. And what I can say for certain is that SUNY, just as at Old Westbury, we have the courage, we are committed, and we will vindicate our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Jean-Pierre, as we've seen, the Supreme Court has rolled back many rights and precedents well beyond affirmative action. In many cases, such as with guns and women's rights, New York State has strengthened and codified many laws. Is there discussion happening in the Assembly and with the governor for a statewide response to these in the coming session?
Well, thank you for having me, President Sam, and thank you to the leadership for hosting this panel, and to the students here. It's really incredible to see, because we've seen the amount of young Black and brown men compared to women attending college is lower than women. So it's really great to see two young men up here. So congratulations to you too. And yes, so I want to acknowledge my colleague who's actually a leader of my delegation, Chuck Levine, who, with our majority, we're so honored and blessed to have two majority leaders in the Senate and the Assembly who are committed to diversity, who are committed to ensuring that our institutions, our public institutions, SUNY, is a representation. I'm a product of SUNY. I'm a Seawolf on the side of the island. But it was because of EOP and HEOP programs that allow me to sit here before you. So I am committed. A lot of members in our legislature who are Black and brown have utilized EOP and HEOP programs and other programs. So we are truly committed to making sure and working with our governor, who said she is committed to ensuring that DEI is stronger than it was prior to the decision. And I really want to publicly thank our chancellor from day one, who has been committed to ensuring that we are transforming lives of all students in our public SUNY system. So if we could just give him a round of applause for what he's done. So last 2 sessions ago and last session, we really got some more momentum. I've introduced a bill called Black Leaders Institute, which mirrors the Hispanic Leaders Institute. And we were able to put fiscal in the budget to ensure that we can not only create momentum among students, but also our faculty. So I'm so excited to work with the chancellor and his team to ensure that BLI is instituted in all of our, hopefully one day, in all of our SUNY institutions, and other institutions can mirror what we're doing, our excellence at SUNY. So the Black Leaders, we created a Black Leaders Task Force in the New York State Legislature, and we also have our Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic Legislative Caucus, who are two groups who have really committed to ensuring that we have, and we just actually had our retreat to really narrow down the decision, the affirmative action decision, to ensure that what policies, we're working with the different types of working groups. We've created working groups. We're working with the New York State Bar Diversity Association to ensure that we are creating policy, hopefully next session, to ensure that we are looking at the decision-making process to make sure that we're protecting current students, incoming students, future students, to ensure that we're protecting programs like HEOP, EOP, when such as lawyers like yourself can digest what the decision-making process has resulted to. So yes, we are committed to making sure that diversity is stronger than it was prior to the decision-making process.
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblywoman. Many of you have heard my story about how my undergraduate experience as a biochemistry major derailed my pursuit to be a medical doctor. Yet it inspired me to pursue a career in higher education in search of inclusive excellence. This search led me to SUNY Old Westbury, where I was reminded that despite, our pronounced commitment to inclusive excellence, even a school like ours will have those who do not like attempts to make progress toward full inclusion and equity possible. Yes, even we here at Old Westbury have challenges like many of you. But despite our detractors, we at Old Westbury have a long and demonstrable commitment to access and diversity in all categories, to maintaining a close and caring environment that you heard about today, to the active demonstration of respect for differences, to inclusive and progressive curriculum, pedagogy, and research, and to an environment that fosters authentic behavior. These are some of the hallmarks of our inclusive and excellent university. And they are captured when, overwhelmingly, our students say that they are here because of our faculty, and our faculty in turn say that they are here because of our students. Having said that, I want to now turn back to our students and ask them how these features of our university have shaped their growth experience. Students, how have you managed and grown from your time at OW, and especially where you might not have been comfortable, as you engage with and learn from students from other walks of life while here at Old Westbury?
Is this working?
There you go.
Hi. Being an Indian, I came here when I was 10, but that doesn't change the fact that, sometimes I used to feel left out in elementary school and middle school and high school. There were points where I was like, do I fit in here? Do I belong here? So diversity became a huge part of my life. And when I was looking at colleges, my family and I, we wanted a college, a university that would make me feel like I belong, and would make me feel like I am getting the best that the university can offer, no matter what my skin color is, no matter where I'm from, no matter what my religion is. And I think Old Westbury was actually the top choice for me because, upon my research, I found that there have been a wide variety of students at Old Westbury. There have been students of many religions, many ethnicities, and I felt like I would belong here. I felt like I would get the best out of the college, out of the university experience if I go here. I think the relationships that I've built, the friendships, the professional relationships, has kind of led me to where I am today. In fact, a faculty member in the international enrollment sector was the individual that recruited me, if you will. And she introduced me to the Student Government Association. She encouraged me to apply. She encouraged me to be part of it. She encouraged me to go outside of my comfort zone. And that's why I'm here today in this chair, because I'm a part of student government, and people have reached out to me saying that you would be good to do this because you have experience, because you can speak and people will hear you, and you can voice your opinion and no one will undermine you, So I think this school has really been a major part of my life. It's something that I'll never forget. It's an experience that I'll never forget. And the professors that I've met, the people that I've met have been absolutely incredible, and they will always, always be a part of who I am in the future.
Thank you.
Hello. Check. You can hear me? Well, all right. So what brought me here, similar to your journey as well, I was looking for a place that represented me. I remember looking literally online, and in the SUNY, when you're trying to apply for SUNYs and things of that nature, they have something there where you could see the actual percentages of how many black people are there, how many Spanish. You kind of see that. And I know in my search, I seen some schools that didn't have as much representation, and I seen some schools that did. And this school was one of the ones where they really did. I looked at videos online of SUNY Old Westbury, and I seen a lot of what I was looking for. In my high school, I didn't feel like I had that experience as much as I wanted to. I wasn't in a high school where I felt as represented as I feel like it could have been. So I kind of searched for that, and in that search, it brought me here. And it has been, really, really great for me because, one, I do feel more represented. I see people like myself. I see people like, so many different walks of life, and that has helped my growth as a person. I don't think I've ever been uncomfortable in any situation with any culture, race, anything like that. but this school has made me know more. I feel more knowledgeable about more cultures and more different people, and I feel like that's very important. I think it's also important that you know the history behind certain cultures and behind certain struggles, because while we are all looking for the same goal, our struggles can be different. So I think it's important to know that, yes, diversity is very important, but my struggle and his struggle, your struggle, they're all different, but we all want the same thing. We all want to do better. We all want to reach a certain goal. But it's important, and I think one thing that this school has given me is one of the classes that I'm taking now, where Jermaine Archer, shout out to Jermaine Archer, I don't know if he's in here, but the African American Studies class that I'm taking, where you really learn about yourself, and I think that's something that's very important, and I think that's something that we need to increase, not just in college, but in high school too. So when you think about why certain people aren't graduating, well, maybe you know what you're working for when you know more about yourself, and you know more about your history, and you know what it took for you to get here. And I feel like that's for all people, that's for all races. But I think that's very important. I think that's something that SUNY did well. SUNY Old Westbury do.
So actually, my last months of my senior high school, I wasn't even thinking of going to college, and I didn't know about Old Westbury till my teacher told me. And it was one of the best decisions that I made since the first day. The people was so welcoming. I felt like I mattered, and it was such a good experience, Also, as you know, the school offers a lot of programs that help you and support you when you're struggling. So I did that, and since then it's been really helpful, and it made a lot of things easier for me. And yeah, it's been a good experience.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn to you, Dr. Rivera. And I'm going to ask you, as you address my question, can you address the issue that Elijah raised a few moments ago? He's taken an African American studies course. If he were in some other states, that might be in jeopardy. So as you answer this question, and you could spin it, think about what Elijah raised for us. Dr. Rivera, you're a public school principal. The decisions we are discussing today don't necessarily impact K through 12. However, we do live on an island where the diversity of our population is growing each year. What has been your experience in terms of how local schools are leaning into the diversity that's appearing in classrooms across the region?
I want to echo people by first off saying thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for the work that you're doing for Old Westbury. I also, just before that, I want to take an opportunity in thinking about what's going on in the world, to look around this beautiful room, and I'm not talking about the physical structure here, I'm talking about everyone sitting in the audience. We can use a lot more places in this country where people of all different backgrounds can come together in a room and have civil discussion and be able and feel comfortable in that conversation. What happens here very much impacts the public school sector. And so who you bring in, who you train, who you put out there impacts education of our children. Right now in the public sector, we are seeing a shortage of qualified candidates to hire for teaching positions, for substitute positions, for many different positions in our school district. I remember as a principal, we would get applicants on Long Island positions. We would get applicants anywhere from 500 to 800 people applying for one teaching position at the elementary level. And now I'm seeing more of maybe 150 to 300. And so that tells you that there's a significant change in the number of applicants that are out there, which is making it challenging. And in some positions, I might see 5 to 10 people. And that's the challenge that we're facing. But going back to what was said before, I think what makes public education in New York State unique, what makes it special, are the conversations that people are willing to have. In the public school system, and I have colleagues of mine in the room here, one of the things that we often talk about are the experiences that we have, but more importantly, the experiences of our children, of our students, of our families. Not every state is willing to have that conversation of those that we serve. We have it quite often. And it's happening across many schools across this not only Long Island, but New York State. We have committees in our public schools dedicated to DEI work. And so we have committees of teachers, of parents, of administrators, of students that are coming together to have these conversations around how do we make our campuses, our schools, not only a more welcoming place, a safer space for everyone. We have conversations in terms of who we recruit. One of the important things in terms of looking at candidates that come in, we ask about backgrounds, not the background of what country you were born in, but your life experiences. Where did you start? Where have you visited? What have you read? Where did you study? Right? Because those experiences introduce us to people from all over, and those experiences allow us to gain more appreciation for those that we're ultimately going to serve. We have colleagues in the Jericho School District. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that we really support teachers in terms of having a voice. We have colleagues in our district that actually present to other colleagues around their life experiences. They talk to us in regards to what it means to grow up in a place like China, in a place outside of the United States, and allow us to learn from each other in regards to how they see education, how they see learning, and how we are bringing it to them as well. To go back a little bit in time, I want to just kind of give you an understanding of things. When I was in elementary school back in the early to mid-'80s, I was the only Puerto Rican child that happened to be, I grew up in Sayville. Anybody live out in Suffolk County? I grew up in Sayville. I was the only Puerto Rican child at the time. And I remember what I loved about the district at the time was that they thought about me. I felt they thought about me. But they put me in every single out of the classroom space to learn English. And the conversation with my mom was, he's going to be very successful, but he has to learn English. And you have to speak only English to him. And so that was a big part of my upbringing. But recognizing that, it took away a little bit of my identity. And so as I got older, I started recognizing there's a part of me that sort of disappeared in that childhood experience that I had. It led me, going back to before, to seeking a place where I can be amongst people that have different backgrounds, that have different life experiences. It was principles that I had in my schools that lifted me up, that encouraged me when I questioned things that happened in the classroom. They created safe spaces for me in schools. And then it was coming to school districts where I had amazing staff. I have amazing teachers that are willing to bend over backwards for the needs of children and families. And I've been in a little bit of background. I taught in the Rockaways in one of the toughest areas of Queens. I was an assistant principal in East Elmhurst, very large Caribbean family population over there. I was principal in Uniondale, right here locally in Long Island, also in Valley Stream, and then obviously where I am today. Going back to what was discussed before, you know, we many times as teachers, educators, we talk about how unfortunate it is for students and families to have to experience things that are going on in other states. The banning of books, right, which has very little credence in terms of the rationale, because some of the book titles that they're banning aren't based on the content, it's based on who wrote it. And that is the tough part to look at, because people aren't taking time to read the books. They're taking simply time to look at the name and the person behind it. We're looking at teachers that can't have the autonomy to have conversations around what's going on in the world. You can't talk about some of the things that are going on in the world right now in your classrooms on the States, because they'll fire you. They'll pull you out of the classroom, right? And so who misses out? Children, students miss out, because they don't gain that appreciation, that understanding for why the world is the way it is, for why we live the way that we do. We talk about the opportunity to recruit, right? And so while we have a teacher shortage, there's a bigger shortage in other states, because people are hesitant to take their career and put themselves out there in a place that isn't going to support them. And so I just want to kind of circle back to before the comment about, you know, SUNY public school, right? SUNY schools being the very best, right, public institution in this country. New York State public schools are the very best institutions in this country as well. So I just want to echo and shout out the public schools, because we do it really, really well. And the last point I'll make before I conclude, you know, what's really important is that for those of you in the audience, those of you who are in the field of education, those of you who support education, is that you support the work that teachers do. You support the work that we do as schools. Help people understand, help raise an eyebrow to the things that are going on, and let people realize that what you hear in the news isn't always the reality. Share your experiences. I think the more that we speak up, the more that we share what education meant for us, understanding where it led us to today, right? We all here have an education, right? where it came from, where it started to where it got us. That's the value, that's the importance of this work, not some of the fluff that people lead you to believe is what's going on. There's one last point I didn't need to make. I want to make it. We talk a lot about social emotional learning in the public school system. You can't be your academically best if you're not your socially and emotionally best. You can't go into a classroom, into a school, and learn at your best if this here and this here isn't your best, right? We can't be people at our very best if we're not okay. There's an attack on that, believe it or not. There are states that say, SEL, ban that. That's bad work. Only responsibility you have as a teacher is to teach the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. Nothing else. And so we have children crying out for help, asking for help, asking why we can't talk about this. That's the shame and that's the crime. But that's where New York State does it better than anyone else. So I'll leave it on that note.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rivera. I'm going to turn to the students and to you, Chancellor, and maybe you as well, Kapil, with this final question before I turn to the audience. What could we do better? How can we improve? Certainly, Dr. Rivera talked about it within the K-12 context. We have a ways to go, we know that. We've talked wonderfully about the work of inclusion here at SUNY Old Westbury, yet I pointed out that we still have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do across the SUNY platform, more broadly. To you students, what can we do better? And to you, Chancellor, what can we do across the system?
Well, look, let me put this in the form of a homework assignment to all of you and to us. First, I would say we've got to do better at connecting K-12 and higher education. We lose too many students who are our potential pipeline. Assemblywoman talked about the underrepresentation of Black and Latino males on our campuses. Well, we can't think of that as a freshman recruitment problem. We have to think of that all the way back to K-12. So we need more programs that mobilize our undergraduates to provide tutoring and mentoring to K-12 students, particularly in high needs districts. We've got a project called the National Partnership for Student Success, which is an initiative of President Biden's to get college students helping K-12 students catch up from all the disruption of COVID by providing tutoring. And we've got campuses all across SUNY that are participating in that. We need more. We need more of that. Students need to see themselves. I hope that students will get to see the students on this panel. Our K-12 students will see them and say, oh, that could be me. I could be at Old Westbury. So we need more of that. I know Old Westbury is going to be a part of Future Ready NYC, this initiative of the New York City Public Schools to get students taking courses and having learning experiences on college campuses earlier. That's critical to make that pipeline work so that we can be as diverse as we would want at SUNY and have the diverse students graduating into our state's workforce. So that's one piece of homework. What can each of us do to better connect higher ed and K-12? A second piece of homework is about the curriculum. And we have a course requirement, a general education requirement at SUNY that every SUNY undergraduate needs to take a course that deals with content that is related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. My shorthand for this is we're going to be the opposite of Florida in New York, right? We want to be a place in New York that acknowledges that to succeed in the workplace and to succeed as a citizen, you need exposure to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is a place where Old Westbury has been a leader, and we need to support our colleagues across the SUNY system in developing that content and making sure all of our students are prepared for success. The third, and this is a challenge not just for Old Westbury, but throughout the SUNY system, we've got to continue to get better at building the pipeline from higher education into the workforce. And one of my goals is that every SUNY undergraduate, and I know President Sams, you've been working on this, that every SUNY undergraduate should have an internship experience. should have a hands-on learning experience that prepares them for careers. And you look at Long Island businesses. Long Island is increasingly diverse. But you go to, I know you have to go to these meetings, Assemblywoman. You go to the Long Island Business Association meetings. You sit down with the leaders of the largest companies on Long Island. And I would venture to say, it's fair to say, it doesn't look like this room, right? And that's a problem, right? But the answer is here too, right? If we prepare our students to go into those jobs in advanced manufacturing, in bioengineering, to be the next leaders of our hospitals, to be the next legal eagles helping to improve the law in this country and in this state, right? If we do that, then we will help solve that problem that our leadership doesn't look like our population here on Long Island or in New York State. So those are 3 pieces of homework, right? To strengthen that K-12 to higher ed pipeline, to ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusion are alive in our curriculum across SUNY, and to strengthen the pipeline from higher education into career success. We're committed to that work, and I hope we can do it together.
Absolutely. Thank you. What can we do better, Elijah?
So from where I stand, I think that was all great as well. I think especially the part about K-12, I know in my experience, getting here was a little confusing in terms of it's a lot of paperwork, you're writing essays, it's so much going on, and you're also trying to stay afloat in that high school area. So I think K-12 is very important. I think adding certain educational tools to K-12 is also important. Things like financial literacy, things like African American history, just things that are going to help the mind understand what college can do for you and why you need to do it. So I think that is something that's very important in the K-12 area, and being intentional about doing these things and being honest about where we are today. I think that's something that sometimes America, or where we are today, is just sometimes we kind of beat around the bush a little bit. And I think it's important that we be as honest about where we're at when we're talking about systematic racism, when we're talking about a lot of these issues that are happening to people all around the world and black people in this country. I think we need to be very honest and be very intentional about pinpointing and handling each issue. Because like I said before, each issue is it's significant in itself. While me and him may want to get to the same place, like I said before, his struggle and my struggle can be different. And we need to make sure that we're like, okay, that struggle is that, we're gonna fix that, and you have this, and we'll come together that way. But we need to make sure that we are acknowledging that yes, we're all going to the same place, but we are different in certain places. And that is very important when trying to keep diversity in all these institutions and trying to make sure that we are continuing it. So for every black man that's sitting in this chair, I know 5 people that aren't here, sadly. I know 5 friends that will not get to this college point and will not, and they don't see it. They don't understand, why it's important. And they don't understand, they don't understand the history. I know my family's history, knowing, how hard my grandfather worked, how hard my grandmother worked. All of that played a role, understanding. My parents used to, teach me as much as I could about myself and being a black man in this country and what it means and how, your education is the key to your next steps. So understanding that is huge, and understanding that from young, from you're in kindergarten to first grade, we need to constantly be reiterating that because it can't be forgotten. And a lot of students, I got lucky. I'm lucky to have that at home and, have a great background, but some students don't. Some students don't have that person to tell them, hey, man, you gotta, this is where this can lead you. This is why you need to do this. So we need to make sure that that lesson, that kind of idea is being taught, especially. So that's where I believe.
Thank you.
I think, so we know that, SUNY Old Westbury earned the university designation this July, I believe, or June. And people expect a lot more out of a university than a college. People look at it differently. And I can, say that from experience, because people expect more rigorous courses, more, people expect the professors to educate their children to a level where they're absolutely ready, at least 75% ready to go out there and actually succeed. We can graduate and still be unemployed, which is really sad to me. And if you have a degree, I think finding ways to use it, put it to use, and having that guidance in college is really, really important. So like the higher education to the workforce, pipeline, like the chancellor said, it's really important because some people have no clue what to do when they get out of college, like absolutely no idea. And some of us are like, okay, I want to do this, we have an idea, but some people don't have that. And I think professors, faculty, staff that can help you figure that out very patiently at your own pace is very, very crucial. They're pinpointing the financial literacy part of what Elijah said. He said that financial literacy is important. And I think one big thing about, going from high school to a college, to a university, is the financial aspect. It costs a lot of money to get your education in the United States. And, finding ways to help people with the financial aspect of it is really important too, because some people can't afford it, and that's why they don't go, but they have the talent to go. They have the knowledge, but they can't go because of the financial aspects. So I think, offering more scholarships, some grants, anything that can really, even one scholarship can do a tremendous amount for one student. It's absolutely amazing. So I think financially helping them, boosting them a little bit will encourage people to come here and be like, okay, SUNY Westbury will help me succeed in the future. And it will help me plan out a path that I actually enjoy doing. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm aware of the time and my commitment to the chancellor to have him out of here by 2:30 so that you are on time for your next appointment. That means we're not going to have time to open the floor to questions, and I apologize for that. But I do want to say one thing before I give my round of thanks. You mentioned, Chancellor, workforce development. I just want to note, and these are not in my notes here, that I got a call this summer from another assembly person, another assemblyman, who was equally committed to SUNY Old Westbury like Assemblywoman Jean-Pierre. That was Assemblyman Levine. And his call was simple. He said, "What can I do to help you?" I said, "Oh, you don't have the time." But I simply said workforce development. And he said, "I will send you funds to support your workforce development effort there at SUNY Old Westbury." I want you to know that. And if you will raise your hand for those who don't know Assemblyman Levine, he's right here. And we appreciate you. We appreciate your support. And when we open the center, we're going to have you come back in and be part of that ribbon cutting. Thank you so much, Assemblyman. So, I want to say a round of thanks. I'm trying to give you 10 minutes with the Chancellor. Okay, so don't bum rush him when we end. But there are a number of folks who would like to meet you and to shake your hand and maybe take a quick picture with you. But he only has 10 minutes, everyone. I want to send thanks to Joanne Robinson, our Chief of Staff here at SUNY Old Westbury. I'm going to ask you to hold your applause till I name everyone, okay? And to Best Chill, did I say it right, Chu? Beth Chu, Deputy General Counsel and Chief of Staff in the Office of General Counsel for SUNY, who together led the team from our campus and SUNY to put today's event together. I'm not done. Thank you also to all the members of the Old Westbury team from Academic Affairs, Student Affairs, Advancement, Communications, Maintenance and Facilities, Facilities Rentals, Capital Planning, and University Police for your work in preparation for today. My thanks also to Katie McKellar and Alana Aloe, our sign interpreters today. Thank you. And special thanks to Kapil Longani. This was his brainchild for proposing that we develop this program. We know you're brilliant, and yet here's yet another example of your brilliance. Thank you for creating this idea and pushing us to executing. Now you can give everyone a round of applause.
I should actually say that.
Oh, it was the Chancellor's idea? Oh, no.
I didn't know when to interrupt, but because I
We
loved
should
hearing
wait for the
that. Yeah, but I just the Chancellor would never say it was the Chancellor's idea. It was
okay.
So we should give him
Give him
a round of applause. This was his idea and his motive.
Well, we just saw a great display of delegation of power and authority. Great job, Chancellor. Thank you so much. Well, with that, we're going to end today's program. Again, the Chancellor has 10 minutes for you to come shake his hand, tell him hello, and as well as Assemblyman Levine and Assemblyman Jean-Pierre and our esteemed panel. Thank you, everyone, for an awesome conversation. Oh.